Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. So excited to talk with this gentleman who has given so much. And the amazing part is that he's been doing it for decades, 50 years of professional experience, at least that much to his name. And he joins us today. He's involved in everything from real estate, which is his mainstay, but there's also farming included in that. And I kind of think that all goes together with his love of the land. He's also our Man of the Year. Ervin M. Norgren joins us on the program. Welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
And congratulations on being selected Man of the Year. That is fantastic to hear.
It's such an honor.
I want to dig into real estate in a moment. We've talked about that a few times when we've gotten together. We've talked about your tour in the Army and more. But I really want to focus on your farming. Now, as I understand it, you have a farm here in the United States, but there's also one abroad. Can you get us up to speed on all of that?
Sure. It's an unusual situation. My wife and I met about 20 years ago in the airport at BWI. I never met her before, and she was waiting to meet a friend of hers who was in real estate, and I introduced myself, and, I could imagine that meeting this beautiful woman was a challenge because she would not give me her phone number, so I gave her my phone number, and I told her to go ahead and call me. And I surprisingly, I never knew that she was from Uganda until later on. And Uganda is probably one of the more poorer countries in the world, but that didn't bother me. We were kind of dirt farmers from Minnesota and worked very hard for what we had. And, when she said that she was in Boston doing some of her college work, I said, well, that's great. I've had a bunch of college classes myself and had an MBA when that was part of the requirement for going to Vietnam. They had a very educated force, probably one of the most educated forces in the history of our nation. And so after I served my 2 tours, I came back to the States, and I put in 37 years in the Army, kind of a long tour of duty, but I loved the Army because you got to go ahead and meet so many different people. I even sold land to people when I was in the service. And it just gave me a warm feeling to be able to help people to acquire part of the pie, so to speak. Everybody wants a piece of real estate, but they have to realize that, real estate is not something that you just pick up, you have to love it. I remember on our farm, I was out plowing one night. My grandmother didn't like it, but my uncle said he needed to get this work done. So I was out there, and I was looking at the earth. And as I was seeing the earth go moving by me, I thought, this is something that I love. And I just continued to do that in real estate along with my tour of duty in the service. I was a medical service corps officer. And Sylvia, my wife, she was a nurse in the state of Maryland. And we had a great time here in Maryland and still enjoy our big house that we bought because we were able to sell some of the smaller houses and fund this wonderful place. And my wife, actually, I never knew about it when I met her, but she goes back as a kid to Idi Amin in Uganda. That was a terrible time. Even her uncle, who was a general in the Air Force, was killed. And she actually went through what was called the killing fields. And this is true. This is literally a place where people went. It was in the swamps. And, Idi Amin and his troops fire machine guns into that area. Fortunately, she was not killed. And she, as a matter of fact, has been interviewed by some nurses in New England because they had never heard of such an experience from any of their nurses before.
Wow. Wow. I have to tell you, Ervin, the memories you're bringing back from the news stories of Idi Amin and the killing fields and all of that, just coming back crystal clear. But I've never heard somebody talk about it or be directly involved in it. And it sounds like your connection with your wife was magical in that you were both connected to medical. You had a love of the land and farming. It doesn't get any better than that. And she called you, too.
Yeah, she did. And, we had a good relationship. It lasted 4 years, and then we got married and had 3 girls. And, it just, I have a bad back, partly due to the service, a small disability, but I'm still able to function well. And, my wife, has most of her relatives, of course, in Uganda. And we started talking about the love of the land, and she said that her brother was interested in going ahead and starting up a fish farm. And, it just kept on going. We've got now 18 people that work for us, and of course technology. This all over the world. You just pick up these phones, and you can see what's happening on the other side of the world. She goes ahead. Her mother is from the Congo. And, of course, the Congo has got a lot of great things that they do, and that's where her mother was. And then she moved to Uganda when she married her father. So it was just an amazing thing to see literally an international business that buys their food from Madagascar. We go ahead and sell our food to places in Europe, and we continue to change our marketing plan so that we can grow. So it's just been an exciting thing to see how in the poorest country in the world you can come up with a viable business plan.
What would you say at this point in time here in the United States is one of the biggest challenges with real estate, people who sell real estate? Or is it just the perception? I've talked to some real estate agents who say, yeah, everything's good. You just got to hustle. You got to make connections, meet people, and people will connect you with those selling houses and wanting to buy. What are you seeing right now for the market? And every area is different, I get it. But by and large, here in the United States.
Well, I've been around quite a while in the real estate business. It's over 50 years. And I have seen a lot of different marketing plans that have come up through our presidents. As a matter of fact, we just celebrated President Carter's 100th birthday. And it was during President Carter's administration. People think now, interest rates are high and they don't want to go ahead and, buy. They're going to wait. There's never any perfect time to buy. I remember when President Carter decided that, his marketing strategy for real estate was somehow or another to grow the business, but the interest rates, the actual interest rates for FHA and VA were as high as 16.5%. And the conventional rates, that is, the rates that people have to pay when they don't put as much money down, was 20%. And I still bought a house at that time.
Wow.
And, continued to buy property because I believed in the land and I believed what, we can do for ourselves, not only here in this country, but no matter where you're at, the opportunity is there. You just have to love it. You have to have that feel for what land can do for you. I often tell the short story of when I was in undergraduate school, and I was at Moorhead. I was attending Moorhead University, and there was a gentleman only a block away from the university's campus that was looking to sell his house. This was right before I went to Vietnam, and I told him I'd like to go ahead and buy your property. I noticed you've had it on the market for a while, and I'd like to make you an offer. And he said, well, what is that? I said, I only have $300. I'm actually going to school. My father died when I was in high school. So I told my mother I'm going to pay my own way. And I did. But, I worked 3 jobs while I was in college. And I did well in school. I even got an extra degree in Maryland because they had something that interested me in the land, and that was that they had a construction technology curriculum at the junior college, and of course, being I had qualified for military funding, I used that to go ahead and graduate from Columbia, Maryland. And I got an A. I'm not bragging, but I believe it's what you can do when you enjoy. I enjoyed, like when we were on the farm, we were always working with our hands. And I have an interest in what can become a part of your real estate portfolio. I mean, if you can go ahead and gather together good subcontractors, which I did, we actually built some houses. And a side story from that is that this one house in Ellicott City, Maryland, we built, And I still have that house rented to this lady for 31 years. I know that that's got to be some sort of history, because I have never seen anyone love that house like she. If you would go to that house, you would say it was a model home, but it was just this lady loved, decorating. She loved having her own house, even though she had to pay rent, and it was just one of those things that you can do as a young person. A lot of people say, well, I need money, or you need the love of that land, and it'll come to you.
I want to ask you a question, and you know what? I'm glad you just said that, because it ties in with the question I really want to ask you. Have you ever gone somewhere and felt that this is where I belong? I may be living somewhere, I may have been raised somewhere, and then you travel someplace and you just feel like, no, this is where I should be. And have you acted on it, and have you moved there?
Yes, as a matter of fact, of course, being in the military, I had a lot of responsibilities, a lot of different assignments. I even worked for Carter, because he allowed the military to open their doors, and I was sent to Katrina during that terrible disaster. And I thought, you have to do different things. And at the time, I got back. One of my assignments was at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And there was something about that area, being next to the capital, the power of the country, and I felt that I needed to stay there in the Washington, D.C. area, because it was the center for real estate. It was just a powerful place, and that's where, of course, I met my wife, Sylvia, at the BWI airport, and changed my life. It literally changed my life. I had never been married before, but after that 4 years that we got to know each other, we did get married, and we still are in this general area.
Did you feel, and they talk about love at first sight, did you feel that in your, and I believe in intuition, I believe the gut feeling, everything you need to know, everything you want to know, you have the answer, it's within you. At that moment when you saw her at the airport, did you feel, yeah, I'm going to be with her? I'm not sure exactly what capacity, but she's going to be in my life for a long time. Did you feel anything like that?
It was magical. I mean, my wife wears her traditional dresses, and
wow.
They're exciting. They're full of color, and she had a positive attitude. Another important ingredient in wanting to accomplish things. It's what you do with your mind, and she had it. It wasn't easy because, of course, she was coming from, a foreign country, and we just hit it off, and we kept on, and we now live in the same general area. Of course, my one daughter, the youngest daughter, she's in high school. She said, Daddy, we got to stop moving around so much, because I would buy a new house. That was an important ingredient for me, because then that meant I didn't need to put so much work into fixing the house up, although I had done that. But my mainstay was sharing with my wife, and she then got the fever from real estate too. And we bought a lot of houses, and we rented a lot of houses out, and we moved from one house to another. But now we have a large home, and it's in the same area. And my wife and I, we have, I've acquired a good amount of capital because I also love, not real estate. I love the stock market, and have made a good amount of money for that. And we decided then this fish farm was going to be how we would help her family, as well as build a viable business raising tilapia. And tilapia is it has a big market. People love that fish. So we did it. And my wife spends a lot of time she's a nurse, taking care, of our veterans at the VA in Baltimore. Baltimore is a tough town, but, she's used to having tough times. And we're one of the few couples that have both been in a war. And so the business of having a farm way away from where our center of being is nothing, because technology allows us to see what's going on in that farm. We have security there, and it's wonderful to see what technology can do to keep up with what's going on with your employees, as well as what's happening with the international market.
Tell me about the farm there in Uganda. How often do you get back there? What's going on with the...
Well, this is an interesting, quite an interesting involvement. Because of, I'm older now. When I was in Vietnam, it was not a big deal to go halfway around the world in these web seats that the Air Force had. But my back developed, and I'm not able to go ahead and do that anymore. I heard a beep. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm right here.
Oh, good. Sometimes the phones, I've got 3 phones for backup.
You're a busy man. I get it. Wow. So you don't get there you don't get back to Uganda as often as you'd like to.
Yes, that technology has certainly helped us to manage on a day-to-day basis sometimes what's going on. And, the world is changing. We no longer have, and I do remember, we still have our phone on the farm. We had an operator, and she had the crank, and you had to call her, and then she would actually put the call through.
Do you remember?
That old phone is still in my brother. He's in Minnesota. We have property there too, and not only just the farm, but we have rental properties and so forth. So the world is changing all the time.
Yeah. Do you remember way back in the day, the actress Lily Tomlin on a TV show called Laugh-In, and she was the operator, just like you're describing, and she would be like 1 ringy dingy, 2 ringy dingy, and she would connect the call for you.
Yeah, and even my aunt to this day, she's still alive. She's 98.
Wow.
And she was an operator, literally. And, it's just amazing. she's a farm gal. There were 8. My father was one of the 8 kids that grew up on that farm. It wasn't the same farm, but farming was a large part of the economy way back when. And, they had the love of the land there. We found that a lot of the people, my aunt, the one that's now getting close to 100, she put on a party for everybody that was around, and she said, "Who's come the furthest?" And of course, we had, because we loved the land, and the military. I asked everybody to raise their hand, and half of the people in our family were, in the military at some time. Some in the Guard, some in the reserves, but they were farmers first, and they helped the country second.
Wow. Got to tell you, fantastic talking with you. I love your energy. It's just, your life is exciting, and I feel the excitement. And congratulations, Ervin, again on being our Man of the Year.
Well, thank you guys for exposing what we can do. Regardless of what our age is,
sure,
we all have it within us if we want to.
I 1,000% agree with you, and we all have a story, and I'm glad that we can tell your story because it's so inspirational every time we get together. Thanks for being here again.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.